Yes, guys, welcome back to Chasing Green Arrows. It's Monday night and there's a Tuesday deadline. This is going to be fast paced as we talk all about players we want to buy this week and we show you our teams. So stay tuned for that. Hello to all the chasers in the chat. It's nice and busy this evening. And hello to my co hosts. First up in San Diego, Mr. Dean Jones. Dean, how are you, mate?
Hello, mate. Yeah, I'm good. Apart from FPL, anyway. My FPL didn't do very well, but I'm good in life.
That is all that matters. Well,
is it? No, not really.
Man, are you happy in life and happy in FPL?
Sorry, what was that?
No, that's all that matters, that you're happy in life. But then I was like, kind of. But then I was thinking, big man, are you happy in
big
both
man, yeah.
FPL?
Hello, Johnny. Hello, Dean. Hello, welcome to all the viewers. Yeah, I mean, I had a relatively good week. FPL was all right. Generally, I've been enjoying the cricket actually. Unfortunately, my team lost yesterday to India in the cricket. That was that was a bit disheartening. But overall, yes, I've been doing well.
Good stuff, mate. Just remind us, big man. Well, and you, Dean. What big decisions did you take, big man? You first this week in terms of your team. I feel like you went Eze out and kept the assistant manager on slot.
That's actually correct. So this week it was a slightly underwhelming week for me in FPL. Like I was just very close to the top 10k average, but I'm still kind of relieved because some of the decisions that I was thinking of making would have really backfired. So Arteta, exactly. So I would have sold slot to Arteta, or alternatively, you must remember that I was considering selling João Pedro or NDI for another forward, and I actually didn't, and I risked starting João Pedro in my team. I sold Eze, who was blanking, for Trossard, who also blanked, but I still think I kind of got away with it because I got rid of a blanker. Eze blanked anyway, and I think this is actually the first time in, let's say, the past 4 to 5 weeks where, even though I just have just one free transfer in my team, I sort of feel content now because my team looks relatively well set to navigate 29 without the use of the free hit.
Very nice. Dean, what about you? Big decisions, how did they go? I mean, you did captain Salah in the end.
I did captain Salah in the end, yeah. So that was fine. I played that troll Cole Palmer, which I didn't want to do, but it made no difference. I didn't have a sub that did any better than him, but his 2 pointers are driving me mad. The main thing, to be honest, which I'm so relieved about, is that assistant manager chip is now gone that you lot were all playing. Because those 3 weeks
56 big ones.
They're really difficult. Is that how many points you get off of it? 56. What about you, big man? How many points did your assistant manager chip bring you in overall? Do you know?
I got 38 without using any transfers.
Okay. So obviously, like, I've been up against that, and in our little mini league, kind of where I gauge kind of how well I'm doing, I've fallen off. Well, you're right up behind me now, G. You've had a great week. You've had a great game week.
Finally.
So you're right up behind me now, and I'm like 40 points or something off of big man. But I'm kind of looking at this assistant managership as like my game in hand, if you like. Yeah. It's like if you were chasing down a Premier League title, you'd be looking at it. But it's like, but they've already got the points in the bag. I'm now basically reliant on like Eddie Howe to like deliver for me, and I don't know if that's a great place to be. But it's been it's been a bit unnerving, really, not using the assistant manager chip when most people were. So I'm mainly glad that that's finished and that I'm still here to live on.
It's definitely finished for the masses. We're going to see a load of managers use it right at the end of the season, 36, 7, 8, because they're going to realise that they have to press the button.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's active. But you're right. There will be a few that go when you go. Hello to so many in the chat as well. Bill CH, FPL, Zega Tool, Matthew CH, Harry Heather, Offcore, Mark, all with us. Punter too. 165 of you watching already, which is lovely. It's going to be a busy show, guys. Get your comments in. We'll flash some of them up, but we're gonna talk about some of the key talking issues, not just with ahead. And most of today's show is going to be about looking ahead, but we are just going to touch on that weekend. Big man, my big decisions, you'll remember, were: do I go a Gakpo replacement and Glasner, or do I just go Glasner? I took the 4-point hit. I went Glasner, and I went against what I said I was going to do on CGA and took a 4-point hit for Gakpo out. I went Mateta, which nailed my coffin for free hit 29. And that's part of the reason why I felt like I had to go Mateta, because it was like, I need to now make a decision. I can't keep umming and ahhing on what I'm going to do in 29. And by buying a Crystal Palace player, knowing they blank in 29, I'm happy to commit to free hit 29. It means, whilst I don't have the optimal chip strategy, I do think the strategy that most will do is correct. It's to dead end in 29, wildcard in 30, 31. I can now keep my Newcastle, my Liverpool, and most importantly, my Crystal Palace players. And boy, were they good. What do you make of that, big man? Like, I've got Manoz and Mateta. I might even be buying the bloke you sold last week in Eze this week, knowing I can buy Palace players. Those that aren't free hitting in 29, they can't go near Palace. Well, they've got Ipswich and Southampton in 2 of their next 3.
Firstly, congratulations to you and anyone who used the chip on Glasner. I think that was a fantastic call. And I think it was a very brave call, actually, because there was nothing to split, Fulham and Palace. Fulham were just coming on the back of a 2-1 win at home against Nottingham Forest.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this could easily have backfired. I mean, I was looking at the odds before the game, and it was basically a pick 'em, right? It was a toss of a coin. So, well done there. I mean, I think you've made your bet now. I think you're basically resigned to using the wild card at some point later, and maybe just using the free hit in 29. I think that's locked in for you primarily. But because you have the likes of, for example, you have the likes of Lewis Hall and Isak in your team, maybe you can then navigate 32 without having to use the wild card in 31. That's, I think, the big takeaway for your team.
That's the plan. I want a wild card. I still want a bench boost in 33. I'm going to have a great 32 team because I'm going to have triple Newcastle, triple Palace. 33 should look good. I won't have the optimal 15 players playing twice like wildcarders might, or 13, 14. I'll probably have 10. And then I can wildcard in 34. So that's the plan. So I'm quite excited by it. Makes me want to buy Eze. I mean, Dean, what did you make of Palace? Like, as an FPL team at the moment, like, you would have watched that game. They were convincing from start to finish against Fulham.
Fulham were rubbish. Like, that is the worst Fulham have played in a long time. So
crazy off the back of that Forest win.
Yeah, I know people that were leaving after 55 minutes. They were like that, like, this. We haven't seen our team play like this. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? But I guess you could say congrats to Palace for forcing them into that. Eze and Mateta are intriguing picks for the games coming up. I don't think that the Villa one should be that off-putting, really. I think that there's every reason to believe that they could bring rewards from that game, as well as obviously the Ipswich one. And it's just that blank to consider afterwards. So, yeah, it certainly would be on my agenda. I mean, personally, on the back of seeing Fulham play like that, I've got 2 transfers to use. And I keep glancing towards Wolves and thinking of their fixture list that's coming up and thinking, if Fulham don't turn up again, on Tuesday, then Wolves are going to get another win there. Wolves' next games are Fulham, Everton, Southampton, West Ham, and Ipswich. That's a really potentially nice run of games. I know Wolves aren't brilliant, so it's hard to predict, but players like Cunha, I think, are going to be very popular, and I've got some appetite to kind of turn that way at the moment.
Yeah, big man Cunha. He only has to get. I mean, he gets a return and he's a banker for 3 bonus. Even in games, I saw a 2-2 draw not long ago. I think it was. He got 1 assist in a 2-2 draw. He still got 3 bonus. He is the definition of talisman, isn't he?
Absolutely, and I've got a very tricky decision this week myself, because last week I had assumed that this would be João Pedro's last week in my team, but now that he's the man of the match performance, it's a very tricky one to consider. I'd actually left enough in the bank to have enough to move from, let's say, NDI or João Pedro to Cunha in one move this week.
Nice.
And while I still have that flexibility, I'm not sure whether I should be going ahead with that transfer right now. But yeah, I think Cunha is probably the best forward to buy this week. I could have gone Beto last week, but I do think that Cunha's, just for the fixtures that Dean brought up, I think he's just too good to pass up. And just because he's so bonus friendly, I think that just adds that extra sort of explosive potential to his tally. and I think he's a really good player to buy in the weeks to come.
Bill's comment, I went João Pedro to Cunha earlier today since I got the assistant manager chip, so he's a bit flush. And that is the thing with the assistant manager chip. Everyone now who's got to the end of their 3-game run is getting, 1.5 million in the bank if you had Slot or Arteta there.
Wow.
I mean, João Pedro, what do you make of that, Dean? Like, we thought, well, we know Welbeck is first choice, but Welbeck out of nowhere was injured. And the press conference again today has been pretty like there's I think Herza said he's concerned or, unsure, but like fairly loose with it, but doesn't sound like Welbeck's going to be around. So João Pedro playing number 9, if Brighton are functioning well, is an attractive proposition. When he was playing 9 a month ago and Brighton weren't scoring goals, it was an issue. But now they're scoring 3-4 goals a game. You're like, yeah, I want a piece of that.
Yeah, I mean, even if you've stuck with him accidentally, it turns out to be good because players always are going to score again at some point. Like, you're not going to get suddenly, like, just because someone's out of form doesn't mean they're going to go the rest of the season without a goal. You're just hoping that moment now brings some momentum for João Pedro, and especially for big man at a time when most people have obviously ditched him, or sick of the sight of him. You've got an interesting predicament that you're faced with now in terms of whether you trust him. Because he's still a great player. It's just that wasn't his moment that you were sticking with him by previously.
Yeah, exactly. Right, we need to talk about injury updates. We need to talk about Jarrod Bowen. We need to talk about our teams. Before we do, let's just talk captaincy. This is a classic form versus fixtures play, right? Form, big man, there's no better form ever in FPL than Mo Salah this season. But Southampton at home is one we all would have looked at Palmer and gone, I'll probably captain him that week. But as the weeks get closer and you see Chelsea not scoring goals and Palmer not scoring points and Salah just scoring 2 returns a game, I didn't captain Salah this week. And boy, it's horrible watching him because at 200% EO approximately, like he's just going to kill you. Now, I was fortunate, but when Isak scored his first 2 goals, I knew that was my starting point. I was like, to beat Mo Salah now, I need return 3, return 4, because Salah plays in 2 hours and he will get 2 returns. And it turns out Salah still got more points than Isak just. But big man, where are you at on this debate this week? Because I think we'll do a poll. I think Salah will be the most popular, but there will be a lot that do go Cole Palmer because it's Southampton at home.
I think yes. Salah will be mass captain because of his form and the way he's been hauling this season. I think I will go with Palmer. And
whoa,
I will, because I don't think it's that much of a surprise, is it? I mean, Chelsea playing Southampton.
I'm proper surprised. Are you really going Palmer?
I'm absolutely sure that I'm going Palmer because I can assemble a team in my hometown and they can probably beat Southampton. They're just that bad, right? Southampton are proper bad. You look at their recent results; they're conceding goals for fun. They concede 3 to 4 goals in every game. Yes, Chelsea have let's say they have a dysfunctional attack at the moment, and Palmer hasn't been performing according to our expectations of late. But I'll just come back and quote Dean here regarding what he said. Players tend to go through these kind of spells. And it is these kind of fixtures which will create their form. I think this irrespective of ownership, I do think Palmer outscores Salah this week. There is an opportunity to go against, especially considering if you're chasing, etc. That's even better because Salah I think will have higher effective ownership.
It's a tough one for sure because watching Cole Palmer at the moment, it's quite difficult to stick with him for sure. And obviously, I said on the last show. He's a player that I honestly wanted to get rid of, but it was just looking at Southampton and Leicester, both at home. That's the only reason I've kept with this guy because he's not been a good own at like 11.1 million. But Southampton really are that bad, and Leicester are pretty close to that now as well. So, I mean, you're the Chelsea expert, mate. You're the Chelsea fan. Where's Cole Palmer going to play? And I mean, how much belief would you have in Chelsea actually pulling decent results out of these 2 fixtures based on the fact that, recently, I mean, what have you won? 1 of the last 4 or something? Like it's a poor run that you're in.
I don't have confidence on Cole Palmer captain. As things stand, I'm going Salah. Maybe my head will get turned. I mean, I've from day one thought this is going to be a close one for me, but Cole Palmer at the moment, and the Chelsea at the moment are poor, but we shouldn't have to think about too much of the club form because it is Southampton and big man's right. Like they should easily win that football match, and I'm sure they will. But Enzo's playing well, and if Enzo's fit, and it looks like he might be, they're playing with like dual tens.
Yeah.
And when Enzo is higher up the pitch, and it was Reece James and Caicedo holding at the weekend, Reece James played in centre mid. When that happens, and there's two behind Enzo and Palmer just do that together pretty much. We could see Palmer number 9. Neto played number 9 because it was Aston Villa. Neto did not play number 9, play really well. And then Maresca goes, you're now my number 9. That's not how it works when you're a wide forward. It depends on the opposition. And against the Villa high line, and we know Villa at home, proper high, Neto over the top was always going to work. And it did. First half, Chelsea were actually quite good. Pedro Neto was great. Pedro Neto obviously will start. I'm just not sure he starts as the number 9. It could be Sancho number 9. It's more likely to be Palmer and Kunku or Pedro Neto, but it's a 3.5 horse race pretty much for that number 9 spot. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Palmer captain. I've got trust issues there massively. That one-on-one, he scores that with his eyes closed earlier in the season.
Such a surprise that he took the option that he did.
He doesn't hesitate.
He doesn't.
It's Cole Palmer.
I honestly was like, I gasped. I couldn't believe they didn't do what we expect Cole Palmer to do, which is be so cool, calm, collected, and like make fun of the goalkeeper and just make him look like an idiot. That's what he does.
I would rank him the player in the Premier League I want with the ball in that position. I would say I want him in that position more than Salah or Haaland. Like, I've never seen Cole Palmer miss one of those. Big man? That finish?
He has been chances. He hasn't. I agree. But then again, it's just the fixture, and I can see him just having so many opportunities for him to,
Southampton.
He probably, against Villa, he probably would have had 1 or 2 opportunities. Against Southampton, I would expect 3 to 4, and that's the difference, right? It's just the ceiling and the volume of chances he's likely to get.
It's difficult because pretty much Liverpool win the next game, they've won the league, right? It's in terms of the fixtures that they've got to come, places where they could slip up that could potentially set a trend. I mean, they've probably won the league already, but like you look at that one, if they also win this game, then they probably win the league. And so it's a game where you expect them to be highly motivated, and all we're seeing of Salah again and again and again is he is the difference maker. He is the guy that will turn a draw into a win, will turn a drab game into something half exciting. Like Liverpool's tactics were really interesting at the weekend, and they just let Man City have the ball. And they played again, kind of like dual tens, like they didn't play with an out-and-out centre forward.
Yeah, it was interesting that.
But they've got Salah doing the one thing that nobody else in Europe really can do at the moment, is relentlessly score and assist. And he's just doing it again and again and again. And he's going to set however many records in the actual game, but also in FPL, he's going to set records again.
Yes.
So that's why it's difficult to fully commit to Palmer here, because it's still a difficult game, this one, for Liverpool. But they probably will break through, and it's probably Salah that does that. That's all we know. That's all we know from Liverpool this season. And Slot trusts him to just deliver in those moments. But, Southampton are genuinely dreadful, like awful. And Cole Palmer, who is a player of supreme confidence and who isn't going to be, I don't think, affected by missing a chance like that or worrying about what people are saying. And he'll be like, oh, that's exciting. I'm playing Southampton this week. They're dreadful. Like,
it's more opportunity to,
Yeah. So I really am split at the moment, because Salah's like the easy pick, really. And Palmer's the one where you're chancing it. And I've kind of reached the stage in my FPL season where I'm getting a little bit bored, because I'm like, I've picked Salah as captain. My rank's going to be fine. But should I go for it? Should I have a little gamble here? Because Palmer is the slight gamble.
Yeah, Palmer's. I know, big man, you're looking at Palmer, but the majority, I know 52% in the chat are saying Salah. Everyone in the chat, you're not casual fans, right? You're watching FPL YouTube. You're an engaged FPL manager. The casuals will all go Salah because they'll go on form. That means Palmer's ownership's not going to be crazy high, and Salah's is still going to be ridiculous. You're fully prepared to take that on, are you, big man?
I think I am, because I genuinely think that Palmer outscores Salah. I'm not captaining Palmer because of the fact that I
Ownership,
want to
yeah.
go for because of the fact that I want to go for differential, or because he's low owned. That's just one of the other reasons, and that's what, like Dean mentioned, that's why it is more exciting. But I generally feel as if I'm comparing those two, the ceiling is just very high. And you look at the bookmakers, I always look at the bookmaker probability. Palmer has a much higher chance to return than Salah this week. I think both will return,
Does
but
he?
I just want to chase that upside.
What do the bookies have it at,
Yeah.
big man, roughly?
I don't exactly remember. There was like a 5 to 6% difference over the last time I checked between between the probability to score or assist for Palmer and Salah.
I'll take that 5% on just for my heart rate. I mean, watching Salah without captaining him was dreadful. It was dreadful. And having to rely on a player that's not Mo Salah, who, is Isak, just like Palmer, an awesome FPL asset that scores loads of points, was also horrific. When Isak got his penalty, I own Lewis Hall, who got the assist for the handball. So I knew it was a Hall assist, Isak goal, or miss. If he misses the pen, it's minus points for me, right? And I know I need to get 2 returns. Isak goes down the middle and Sales gets a hand to it.
Mate, that penalty was outrageous. That was proper like FIFA stuff. Like the way the goalkeepers fell into the back of the net as well.
Yeah,
like...
and the ball just slow motion over the line. But at one point you're like, is it gone over? Yeah, it was horrible. So I think I'm going Salah. And big man, you can convince me to change my mind in this game, like you have done before this season, I'm sure. But I don't think I can trust it. With Chelsea.
Look, obviously Chelsea play Tuesday, and then Liverpool play like 24 hours later on Wednesday.
Oh God, to them.
Yeah, so it could be agonising. Like if Palmer hasn't returned, then yeah. But also equally, like big man's pretty confident here that Palmer's going to get a couple of returns that will leave him in good stead. And at that point, if he scores 2 goals, I don't think you really have to worry about what Salah does. That's basically where you're at. And
I mean, as long as Palmer gets, let's say, a double-digit haul, I don't think I'll be too perturbed by Salah, because then you're effectively looking at Salah scoring a hat-trick to really, really destroy your game week.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the only problem is, a double-digit haul has been hard to find for Palmer in the last 5 game weeks. It's not since game week 21 against Bournemouth that he did get a 10-pointer. And even 10 pointers aren't that great. If you want something that's like extraordinarily good from Palmer, it's not since game week 15 when he got 18 points in the 4-3 win over Tottenham. So he hasn't been returning like at an outrageous rate or anything like that for some time now. And with Salah, I'm just like, it's just like the last few weeks, right? 14, 12, 8, 13, 16. While Palmer hasn't been getting any points on the board, that's outrageous. And that's I'm just scared of the man. I'm just scared to go against him. But at some point, I've got to start gambling in this game, or I'm just going to end up with an average old rank, which is boring. It's boring.
Dean, from what I gather, I think you're currently 60-40 Palmer.
I'd say exactly 60-40. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a good read.
But you're just scared of getting stung.
Yeah.
I think a lot of this comes down to how we sort of read this game. I personally see Chelsea winning probably 4-0. And if I was to guess, I think Liverpool win 2-1. That's just the way I see it personally. But obviously, if you see Liverpool scoring a similar number of goals as Chelsea or close to it, then I think the case for Salah is stronger.
Yeah. Gee, how does it make you feel? Because just within our little mini league that we've got, obviously,
this is horrific.
I'm going to say, does this help you or not?
Torture. You guys are going to steal a march. Even the gap's going to widen off investing in a Chelsea asset that's going to bang you point. I can't. My only way to combat this is to captain Salah and buy a couple of Chelsea attackers. So I've got triple Chelsea attack.
Yeah,
captain Salah. I do have Enzo in my team, which is quite nice. Can I go buy Pedro Neto? Maybe. Yeah.
I wondered if you were excited or not by the prospects that you were the one who would captain Salah, because potentially, if our gamble was to flop, you make up ground.
True. I'm 70-30 Salah.
Yeah.
Dean, I think you've correctly use the word gamble, because that's effectively what it is. I mean, as much as we like Palmer against Southampton, we must not forget that earlier in the season, Salah scored 18 points against Newcastle, and that I remember that being a week. I remember that being a week where I did not captain Salah, and I presume a lot of the other managers didn't as well. And I was surprised to see Salah score that big against Newcastle. If he can do that away from home, surely he can do that at Anfield as well. It is a risk. We understand that, but we're effectively gambling. You're right.
We captained Palmer versus Southampton, a lot of us. I did. I watched the game. I remember it so well. Palmer only got 7 points, but he clocked 1.83 XG versus Southampton at St Mary's. 1.83. I guess that's his highest of the season, if not his second highest. So yeah, interesting there. What do we make on any other Chelsea assets? Anyone looking to buy another Chelsea attacker? Like, if we're talking about Palmer captaincy, should we not be talking about buying Pedro Neto or buying Enzo or buying Nkunku? They're all going to start those 2 football matches just for Southampton and Leicester. Is it not worth a buy, Dean?
Well, they're just not very good. So it's like, I don't want them any longer beyond these 2 games. So I don't want any more of them, because there's more to get rid of, like that's basically what would be in my head. It's like 2 more players to replace, because even Cole Palmer, I don't envisage honestly keeping beyond these 2 games. I think I'm going to go elsewhere, because it opens up my my funds as well for what else I can do. So no, I'm personally not. Who is the top other pick? Like who is the most? Is it Neto?
I think because he played number 9 at the weekend and he's cheap, 6.2, it will be Neto. Yeah. Going into last week against Villa, people were looking at maybe buying Nkunku, but I think the weekend shows us big minutes risk because he'll get early subbed, and if he's playing wide left, you don't want him.
Yeah.
I like Enzo though for the price point.
Enzo at the price point and seeing the positions he's getting into is definitely still interesting. I guess the only way I would really open this up as well would be like, I've got Cody Gakpo who I've stuck with in my squad, and like I assume Gakpo now starts.
Agreed. I think he will.
So I think people would have given up on Gakpo in the last game week and got rid of him. So there's a small temptation. Say Cunha, for example, I've said I quite like. I mean, my front 3 is Wood, Isak, and Gakpo at the moment. So if I was to bring in Cunha, I'd have a big decision there over which one of those 3 to drop. It probably have to be Gakpo, right? So that's quite a dilemma, because I think Gakpo's got big potential coming up to get some good hauls.
I do love your suggestion in the chat, by the way, about captaining only having like a limit. You can only captain Salah 8 times a season or something. That would make it way fun, but loads of strategy would be in that one. Let's move on away from captaincy then. We'll chat more about it tomorrow, no doubt, as that deadline is. We are going to do a deadline stream on Chasing Green Arrows. It's going to be tomorrow at, I can't remember what time.
4:30, yes.
4:30 to 5:30. So we're gonna have a half an hour off before the deadline. We're gonna do 4:30 to 5:30. Note for the diary. Guys, hit the notification bell and you'll know when we're going live. But also, this is our first time in 33 minutes of saying, if you want to hit the like button, we'd appreciate it. If you don't ask, you don't get. And we're not even on 100 likes. I'd love us to get up to a few more. But also, please consider subscribing to Chasing Green Arrows. If you're new around here, then hopefully you see value in listening to our opinions. I don't offer as much as these 2, but Dean is a football journo that's got great insight into the game, and he's brilliant for our team news and our transfer sections, as well as having a good FPL season. And Big Man once finished 4th in FPL and is one of the elite managers in the game. He's also captaining Cole Palmer. Got a lot of time for that, Big Man. You've thrown me with that. Completely thrown me with that. I now feel like I can't believe I'm doing it if you are. But okay, let's just talk about some injury updates, because I was on Scout earlier and just wanted to give some headlines. There's been loads of press conferences today, and it's easy to miss the midweek press conferences from Monday and Tuesday because we got such an early deadline. Rodgers and Mings to be assessed, so Rodgers is the big one there. Maresca gave a 15-minute press conference. I watched every second of it. It's very boring. He didn't mention Enzo, who I've got. I'm a bit worried about Enzo because he pulled up at the end of the game, but Chalobah is injured and ruled out for 10 days. Bournemouth, Zabani ban isn't great for their output as a team. Evan Nilsson could cameo off the bench. He made the bench last time out. Fulham got Smith Rowe possibly out. Other than that, no big FPL news there. No big FPL news.
I want to touch a bit on Evan Nilsson's return.
Oh, yeah, go on. Yeah,
that directly affects Dango, right? Going
yeah.
forward. So Iriola said something along the lines of, that he's fit, but he hasn't been training as much because of the injury. So we reckon Dango should be safe. I mean, he should be safe this week, but like in the long run, what are your thoughts on Dango going forward?
The pecking order in that attack, I can try and judge, or we can all try and judge based on substitutions, not just last week when Zabani got sent off, but the last few weeks. Zabani's getting 87, 88, 90 minutes. Kluivert's always coming off before him. It's showing me that the pecking order at the moment in that attacking lineup in multiple positions is Dango is still in that 11 if Evan Nilsson comes back. And it could be a Kluivert that drops out. It could be a Brooks or a Tavernier, whoever's playing on the right-hand side drops out. I feel like Dango is safe when Evan Nilsson's back in the 11. And I feel like we're not seeing Evan Nilsson back in the 11 starting for at least another 2 games. He didn't even come off the bench at the weekend. So I think we're all right. If I was a Kluivert owner, I'd be a little bit worried. When Zabani got sent off, like you look at like where the attacking subs, who gets compromised and stuff, like Dango ended up playing on the left wing, like almost as a left back, ended the game. Kluivert's the one that gets hooked. So yeah, Semenyo and Dango owners, I think, are fine. Dean?
Yeah, I'm torn because I wanted to play Kluivert this week against Brighton, but it's definitely something to look into before the deadline as to what the reading is on how they'll approach that game and what Kluivert gets out of it. Because if it's not a likely chance that Kluivert plays that game, I don't know if I even want him in my squad anymore. I've got 2 free transfers to play with, and my 2 midfielders that are kind of up for grabs are Kluivert and Rodgers. And obviously, if they're both not looking great picks for this game week, I'll be happy to get rid of at least one of them.
Well, speaking of midfielders, people are buying a lot that have got money from their assistant managership are looking to buy Jared Bowen. What do we make of Bowen? Because he's got Leicester at home. Big man, you've always been a Bowen fan. Rodgers to Bowen, a sensible move?
I think so. I mean, the fixtures are as good as they come, and he's nailed. I have no objections. He's playing in game week 29 as well. Decent fixture away to Everton. The only slight thing I would say here is, and this is only playing devil's advocate, that you can perhaps get the Bournemouth mids for cheaper, and maybe they offer better value. That's the only thing I can say. But I think Bowen is a good pick in isolation for sure.
Forget about 29 for a minute, Dean, because Eze doesn't play. Eze's 6.7, Bowen 7.3. Do you like Eze as a punt now he's back in the team and fit? Because Palace play Villa this week, but then I think it's Ipswich and Southampton either side of the 29 fixture.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Eze's a standalone asset, isn't he? There's players that you just get who are great players even if they're in average teams, like they'll stand out. I mean, Eze has sometimes been a frustrating pick, I think, across this season, but largely it's been because he hasn't had players necessarily on his wavelength when things haven't gone well for him. So knowing that Mateta's been in decent form always helps you make a decision like that. I think Eze is still a very good pick, but Jared Bowen isn't one I'd really thought about actually until you just brought that one up. And now I'm seriously actually thinking about whether Bowen is my pick to come in there, so that I've got West Ham home to Leicester. That's a really nice game, I think, based on what we've just seen from West Ham. They're actually growing as a team. I liked the way that Potter set up tactically for the game. The 3 centre-backs, the wing-backs, the way the team worked together. West Ham really had good signs of life for the first time. I mean, there wasn't really anyone that put in a performance below 8 out of 10 at the weekend for West Ham. So I think that was really interesting. And I guess the one that kind of is lingering at the back of my mind is Rashford a little bit, because I don't love him as a pick right now, but I'm definitely starting to have to consider it. I didn't think he'd do as well actually as he is doing. Like he is, what I like about the way that Rashford's playing is the directness of it. Like he's showing like intent for goals, and it hasn't really happened properly yet, but it doesn't feel like it's that far off happening for Marcus Rashford. And so he is definitely in the back of my mind at the moment as a potential pick in terms of just having another goal-scoring midfielder that is a little bit different from what everybody else has got. Obviously, Villa have got a blank coming up, but Palace and Brentford, 2 away fixtures. It's tough. It's tough. But I think my hunch will probably be that Rashford won't come in for me yet. I'll wait until that blank's gone. But I have been a bit impressed, yeah. He's right there. Bill says Rashford no longer has a weight on him. He can have fun. It does feel a little bit like that, but also the fact that he's on all these set pieces. You know, there's more to it than just that.
Yeah, fair play. He has looked. I thought against Chelsea when he came on, he's so good.
Yeah.
Of course, thank you so much for reminding us. 370 plus watching and only 103 likes. Dean, go on, give it your best like and sub.
Oh yeah, come on, people. We don't really ask that much this question anymore because people got annoyed with us for asking. But support the channel, give us a like, and if you haven't subscribed, then please do press the button as we try to hit that 10k number, which we're well overdue by now. Come on, get us to 10k.
Do you know how it works with the notification bell? Like, do you just get an email? Like, not an email. Well, I don't know. Do you get an email? Like, how does it work?
I don't know. I get
anything.
I just get the alert, the kind of thing at the top of
your YouTube.
I'm like, yeah, like the YouTube notification, basically. Chasing Green Arrows live now, and then it tells.
So you've got to be in YouTube to see it.
In terms of I think if you've got the app on your phone, then it just
probably push notifications. Yeah,
push notification.
Yeah,
That's
nice.
how it worked for me.
Yeah, well, make sure you do that, guys, because we do go live at different times all the time. That's quite common. Tomorrow it's at 4:30, for example. Got notifications on the phone, Nathan. The 30-minute reminder is really helpful. Oh, is that what they do? Do YouTube message you 30 minutes before and say Chasing Green Arrows is going live in 30 minutes?
My one today came up literally as we'd just gone on air, so I don't know if that maybe it's just my settings on my own phone. I don't know.
Christian says, why do people get so triggered when you ask for a like? Every content creator does it. It's 30 seconds out of the whole hour. The problem is, Christian, in a 10-minute video, I'll happily do it 3 times, and then it's a minute and a half of 10 minutes, which is probably a 15%, which is a bad ratio. So yeah, I've got to get slightly softer at it. But yeah, you're right. Like it should be fine, right? Yeah. There we go, guys. Let's crack on. I want to see your team, Dean. I want to see my team, Dean's team. Big man, we're going to see yours tomorrow, but we want your take on our teams. So where are we at?
Yeah, so it's fine. I've got this like Rodgers Kluivert dilemma because
no Palmer on the bench.
No Palmer on the bench this week. Not even bothered with that one. So I think I'll probably start Gakpo, and then Rodgers or Kluivert turns into Jared Bowen or something like that. That's probably what my hunch is. And then my gamble might be that Aina starts instead of Kirkes.
Ooh.
Because I don't fancy Arsenal going to ball.
I don't fancy Arsenal scoring goals. This is why I didn't like the idea of buying an Arsenal attacker this week or going Arteta. I just don't trust. They took 81 minutes to break Leicester down. I think we can see from Friday night, Brentford versus Leicester. How the hell did it take Arsenal 81 minutes to break that Leicester team down? That's how average the Arsenal attack is at the moment. But you can't sell Kluivert because he plays in 29.
Exactly, yeah. So that's obviously, exactly, yeah. So it'll probably be Rodgers,
yeah. Big man, what do you make of that for Dean? Can you hear us, big man?
Yeah, I think I definitely keep Kluivert. Rodgers is someone who I can, yes. I would definitely keep Kluivert. I think he's someone who's playing in 29, like you mentioned. So I would keep him. The defense is, it's a slight concern to me. I think you need to address the Villa guys. So Dean and Rodgers would be the 2 players I'd probably look at getting rid of.
Yeah.
I mean, you can look at let's say Nkunku, but we're not exactly sure about his minutes. I think I would probably still go with Dango or Semenyo.
Yeah.
If you're picking a mid, I think I'd get a Bournemouth mid. I like Bowen, but I think that the Bournemouth mids offer better value, and you can perhaps look at an alternative for Dean. I mean, someone like a Colwill or a Cucurella to get you through till the second time you wildcard. Because Chelsea
should keep clean, shouldn't they? Do we fancy Chelsea to keep a clean sheet versus Southampton and Leicester? I think I do.
Not your goalkeeper, mate.
Oh, don't. I don't know his work.
Goalkeepers, I should say.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know. You'd like to
Kepa
think
back.
so, honestly, who knows? I was just looking at the most informed midfielders that I could consider bringing in here. Obviously, Salah is the most informed, but then behind him is Gibbs White, 6.5 mil. Minte at Brighton, 5 mil.
I don't mind that punt, Minte.
What about Mitoma? 6.4.
I'd just rather Minter at such a discount.
Okay.
Similar output.
Yeah, it's fair enough. And then you got like Sharda at Brentford, Bellegarde at Wolves as players. I mean, Bowen's like quite a bit further down, to be fair, but I think he's got a bit more leverage in terms of like pedigree, hasn't he? And the type of positions that he's going to be in terms of trusting him to return points. But those Brighton assets are reasonably interesting. It's just a case of whether you completely trust Brighton, because they do go through some mad spells. I mean, you look at Brighton's recent fixtures, right? Their last 4 games, they obviously just beat Southampton 4-0, and before that they beat Chelsea 3-0. But before that they lost 7-0 against Forest and 1-0 to Everton. What are this team? Like, doesn't make any sense.
So hit and miss. Yeah. I wonder if you'll consider a Chelsea mid, mate. Like, we've spoken about why you should captain Palmer, but Pedro Neto for a 2-week punt. Or a 3-week, he scored against Arsenal earlier in the season. So, Southampton, Leicester and Arsenal, 3-game run for Pedro Neto. Because of Chelsea's injury problems and no Madueke, whether he plays 9 or not, we know at least Pedro Neto is starting.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, and I really do think that the recent Chelsea form has to kind of be forgotten given these next 2 games that they've got. Yeah. Surely it has to be irrelevant. So you do make a good point there, yeah.
Gosh, big man, what's your take on Pedro Neto as an option? That you've just mentioned the Bournemouth guys as like someone.
I'm just talking about the minutes. Long-term minutes are the problem.
Yeah, but if assume it's a 3-week punt.
See, that's what I'm not sure about. Even in game week 30, I think that's a bit of a stretch. If you're
Madueke will be back by then.
Yeah, I mean, I just think I would rather get the Bournemouth mids. I can see them scoring in each one of the next 3 fixtures. You look at Brighton away. Brighton have a leaky defense, then Spurs and Brentford are leaky as well. So I still think they can do really well. Just because the blank 1 week should not really put you off from buying them.
Yeah. Nice. Well, Dean, we'll talk more about your team tomorrow. We'll probably be locking in live on the show, guys. So stay tuned for that. Like, before we leave at 5:30 tomorrow, I'm pretty sure I'll be locked in. Although maybe the deadline will stay open beyond 6, because it did last time. It stayed open an extra 20 odd minutes, which was hilarious. The guy at number 10 in the world, or 5 in the world, managed to make a change after the deadline from Arteta or Slot to Glasner, and he went to world number 1 with a transfer made after.
Really? Oh, controversial.
So controversial. There we go. Let's see my team. I am on free hit 29, guys. I just want to confirm that and lock that in when we see my team and recommend transfers and stuff. And because I'm on free hit 29, I really like the idea of shopping for players that no one else can shop for or will shop for. Like, no one's buying a Palace player, no matter how good they are, because they don't play in 29. So I like the idea of my next transfer being Rodgers to Eze. I just don't know if I want to make that move this week. After game week 27, we'll know more. We'll know more about the chances of Palace doubling in 33 or not. And again, that forms part of my thinking. We know they're doubling in 32, but based on the FA Cup, we'll know if they're doubling in 33 or have a greater chance of that. And if they are, more reason to buy an Eze. I want Eze, but I don't need him for Villa. I definitely want him for Ipswich. And if I did buy Eze, I give myself a benching dilemma. Like, I don't really want to bench Dango. And I'm not benching Enzo with that fixture. And I don't want to bench a Watkins. So I think the Eze move can wait. The only way I'd make a move is if we heard Enzo was out or we heard Isak was out. Like, Isak went off holding his back and no one's really speaking about that. Like, he went off at 85 minutes with his hand on his back. And we know in the past he has had issues. I think I'm fine, and I think they'll be fine. Howe's not going to tell us. My defence needs a bit of work. Like, I've still got Rico Lewis. Thank you for highlighting that, punter. This is the first time he'd have been in my 11 for about 15 weeks, though. He has Rot on my bench as my 3rd sub. But I might start Rico Lewis this week. It might be Mikalenko. It might be Rico Lewis. It certainly won't be Lewis Hall. The only reason it's not Mikalenko is because I've got Pickford, and I just fancy splitting the odds there instead of hedging. Dean, what's your take there? Let's go with you on my defence and then big man on my attack. So Rico Lewis, Mikalenko, City in general defensively.
I mean, I just don't like Rico Lewis. I just think he's a liability, but
he's not that good, is he?
He's not at the moment. No, I mean, I don't want to say he's not good because his breakthrough and when City were good, he was actually very good, and he's
very technical.
He did a very good job at following instructions for a lot of the time since his come through at Man City, but he's been targeted, he's been vulnerable, he's been overpowered, he's made errors, he looks a little bit at the moment stuck in his own head, but you don't really have any alternatives, do they? I mean, they obviously they've been known to stick centre-backs out at full-back, but I think Kusanov did well enough in the centre that they would want to keep him there. So the only real
out for 8 weeks. He was playing at right back the game he got injured.
Yeah, obviously Stone's out at the moment. There are a few other injuries that they're trying to manage. I don't know exactly how players like Diaz are doing at the moment, so I don't know whether they could start. So is it like Lewis versus Mikalenko? Basically, is that what you're weighing up,
Pretty
or
much.
is it not even? Are you not even weighing it up? Are you?
No, I am because I do think Spurs score, but I don't even know if Rico Lewis starts. Like,
I think that's probably the thing I'd question the most is like
they're so short, but
because he'll come on probably if he doesn't.
That's the thing.
Start.
I could get a 1 point cameo. That's the thing. I know Mikalenko's starting. It's just Brentford are scoring goals for fun, aren't they? Like Brentford.
Yes. They are probably going to score. So you're kind of hoping like Mikalenko gets a couple of points or maybe gets an assist that Rico Lewis can't get. I mean, you're only talking here 3 or 4 3-point difference mainly. It's not.
Rico Lewis does get in good positions on the ball as well. Like he could get an assist by like a sideways.
He should get assists. He should. Like he's always in. He always inverts. He's always in that middle area and he gets in on the ball a lot. But he's just not having a very good season, unfortunately. And it's probably as much as because of the teams. Around him as much as the players around him as much as anything else. Joseph says never liked the Lewis shout from game week 1 and never owned it. I think at the start of the season, I definitely think Rico Lewis was a good shout.
He scored me a goal early on.
Yeah, Rico Lewis looked good.
Actually. I think it's genuinely unbelievable that he's still in your team. I mean, it's incredible. You won't find too many engaged managers who. I mean, a lot of us owned Rico Lewis back in like game week 6, game week 7, but that seems like an eternity away. I kid you not. I mean, I think the significant majority of people who still have Rico Lewis in their teams are inactive, right? So,
wow.
But anyway, I think looking at your team, you need to figure out whether you think that Rodgers is more of an issue or whether you look at your third defender, Rico Lewis, and think that that's more of a problem because you have one free transfer. There's only one that you can make. I think you can probably do the Lewis transfer this week with a view of moving Rodgers on to Eze next week, given your chip strategy. So maybe Lewis to someone like a Kukurea or Caldwell could work, very similar to what I suggested to Dean, because those are the two fixtures that you need to be targeting with your defense. And after that, Newcastle's fixtures will improve from 30 onwards and Hall can just come back in the team. So effectively, all you need is a defender for the next 2 fixtures. And I think a Chelsea defender actually fits the bill perfectly.
The problem is I'm not wildcarding in 30-31. I'm bench boosting in 33. And without a wildcard before a bench boost, I need to make sure I'm bringing in players that are likely going to double in 33. I know in 32, Palace and Newcastle double. So I'm fine buying Palace and Newcastle. But if I wait 1 week, the FA Cup is after 27, before 28. We'll know a lot more about the 33 doubles if I wait a week. So I would love to be able to roll. And then my Rodgers and my Lewis replacements, because you're right, I do need to sell both of them. Certainly Lewis. I can then make sure it's for a doubler. If I go buy a Chelsea player and they don't double in 33, it's one more player I've got that I can't wildcard out because I'm not looking for a 2-3 week punt. I'm looking for a 5-6 week punt. So holding the transfer makes sense. I've also got the exact funds to go Rodgers to Eze, which is fine with the Rodgers price drop because for the price I paid, I can soak that up. but I can't therefore go Rico Lewis to anyone more expensive than 4.4, or I can't make the Rodgers to Eze move next week.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. And I think that makes complete sense, actually, because waiting a week will give you that critical information, which will then allow you to get a doubler. I think if that is the case, then I would leave it as it is.
That is the thinking with Rico Lewis in this 11. It's like, he's not been in the 11 for 15 weeks. Put him in, but it's probably his last week because, as you say, like, I need those transfers for 33, knowing I'm on a different chip strategy to everyone else. So it's 1 week of pain, effectively, with the back. But I would point out Daniel Munoz and Trent, like, both very good. Like, there's a lot of managers out there that would love to buy a Daniel Munoz at the moment, but can't because he doesn't play in 29. And he has been amazing. Just got a quick tweet to show more of the average position map of Daniel Munoz. I tweeted this morning. Some of you follow me and may have seen it, but I've made a lot of bad decisions this week against the template this season. One good move I made was selling Gabriel. I got rid of Arsenal defenders, or Arsenal in general, back in game week 20. Since then, Munoz 43, Gabriel 21. The reason everyone doesn't question owning Gabriel is because they're like, oh, he could score a goal this week. Gabriel scores 3 goals a season. Munoz scores more than that. It's rubbish narrative. It's lazy FPL management, and the world and their dog in the FPL bubble. Gabriel was only 30% owned. I bet 80% of the world of you lot watching own Gabriel. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with owning Gabriel, but he shouldn't be a must-have or a set and forget. There's only one player in FPL that should be a must-have in our teams, and his name's Mo Salah. But Gabriel is this invisible spot that people just like put this halo around and don't even consider. Arsenal have kept like 2 clean sheets in 6. There's upside defenders out there. We've seen Robinson, we've seen Aina, we've seen Lewis Hall. At times we saw Ait-Nouri, around 4.5 to 5 million that are better than Gabriel. So just bear that in mind when you're making your moves. Bit of a rant at the end of the show for me. Not having to go at any of you owning Gabriel, because I know you all do. I wouldn't take a pop at you like that. But just consider him not a must-have when you wildcard in a few weeks' time, because he's not.
Yeah, I mean, Arsenal's defence isn't what it was, is it? And that, the reason I got Gabriel is because you almost guaranteed clean sheets half the time. And then the point he was being signed by everyone, he was scoring goals from corners, but Arsenal aren't really doing that anymore. So, yeah, all of that is out the window for now. And we wait to see what the future holds for Arsenal in terms of turning the corner. I mean, the next 2 games away from home, Nottingham Forest and Man United, they're not the toughest, but equally, you've got no idea really what you're getting from this Arsenal team at the moment because we don't really trust them. We know that how emotionally unstable this team can be, and it all stems from their manager who just can't keep his emotions in check. And I think that's one of the big problems we've probably had in terms of getting a title race this season. Arne Slot seems like the least emotional person in the world when it comes to just getting caught up in the moment and doing things he shouldn't. Whereas Arteta just lets everything just kind of overwhelm him because he's so desperate to win and kind of feels the pressure too. Slot hasn't got to that moment yet, certainly in English football. And I think that's really helped Liverpool kind of just stay level-headed for the moment. Discover says, all 3 of you name your favourite captain this week. I think that's quite a nice way to end the show because obviously I think the biggest talking point of today here has definitely been that 2 of us are going to captain Palmer. One of us is going to captain Salah. So, G, you could start it. What would your ranking be on captain of the week?
I love looking against Mo Salah. Sometimes I back it, sometimes I don't. But I always look at it. Not going to lie, this week, I felt like since day one, I'll probably go Salah, and I'm still there now. I would love to punt Palmer in. I don't think I will. Let's see where I am tomorrow.
My ranking I'd go Palmer 1, Salah 2, and Burmo 3. That's how I would dress it up.
Big man.
I think I'd go Palmer 1, Salah 2, probably Bowen 3.
Ooh, wow.
Leicester
Pedro Neto 3 for me.
Neto 3.
Just chasing that fixture. Yeah.
Oh,
I like that. Good end to the show, guys. Yeah, we'll talk more tomorrow. Come by. We will lock in our decisions. Maybe I'll be talking about Cole Palmer. There was a comment in the chat a minute ago. Something like, at your rank, G, what's the point in going Salah? You make a fair point. Maybe you're right, Adam. but I feel like I've gone enough against the template in the last 2 days for a week.
Yeah, you just had a really good game week where you did make up some ground. So
made up a huge amount of ground, and I committed to free hit 29. No one's doing. I captained Isak. No one did it. I bought in Mateta. No one did it. On a 4-point hit, very few did it. That I feel like I did enough in the last couple of days to chase a bit of rank. Maybe I can like take the pressure off a little bit on Tuesday night.
Yeah.
He who dares, Rodney. Thanks, Graham. Good stuff, guys. Thank you so much for watching. The three of us will be back tomorrow night, and I promise you, it's going to be a proper good show. I know there are so many YouTubers you can go and watch on a deadline stream, but let me ask you this: how many of them have 3 good different viewpoints? They're all one-man bands. Come and watch us 3. We'll see you at 4:30. Watch a bit of them either side, because they'll do 2-hour long streams, and you can watch them all drink their waters and tap their keyboards to send tweets and ignore you lot in the chat, or you can come and watch us be seen in the chat and have the opinion of 3 people for 60 minutes, where it's hopefully good insight. We'll see you at 4:30 tomorrow, guys. Bye-bye.